Welcome back, Music Maniacs, to another episode of Gibbs Drops the Needle, your one-stop spot for all things music. Earlier this month, it was released that Sid Wilson would no longer be a member of Slipknot, and as the weeks have went on, there have been numerous stories about what led to this and people reacting to it, so we will definitely get into all of that at the end of this episode, but it really made me start thinking about all the members in Slipknot that have come and gone. And really, the big emphasis for me is Paul Gray's passing in 2010. It seems like since then that they haven't been able to really keep the core group together. So I wanted to get into all of the members that have come and gone during that time since Paul Gray's passing. I know that there was some changes early on in the lineup in Slipknot's career, but this is more focused on after they've already became a mainstream success and the changes that they have made since Paul Gray's passing, because I really feel like that's the turning point. There were some members that were switched around, new guitar players brought in. I know that Corey Taylor wasn't the original singer of Slipknot, so there were some changes throughout the lineup before Paul Gray's passing, but the main group was together when Paul Gray passed, and it seems like since then members have come and gone. So I wanted to get into that, starting with obviously Paul Gray passing. He died on May 24th of 2010, and his death dramatically changed the band and eventually led to Donnie Steele returning as the touring bassist. After Paul Gray's passing in 2013, Joey Jordison would be fired despite the band initially saying that he left. Slipknot announced that they were parting ways with Joey for personal reasons. Joey publicly disputed that, saying he had been fired. He later revealed that he had been suffering from transverse myelitis, which severely affected his ability to play drums. So they moved on from their original drummer there 3 years after Paul Gray's passing. In 2014, the bassist that took Paul Gray's spot after his passing, Donnie Steele, would leave during the recording of The Gray Chapter. He had returned to play bass following Paul Gray's death, but wasn't retained as the band's permanent bassist. Alessandro Venturella ultimately took the role. Steele did record some bass parts for that album of The Gray Chapter. Moving from there, in 2019, Chris Fenn was fired. Fenn filed a lawsuit against Slipknot over financial payment issues, alleging that he wasn't receiving money he believed he was owed. He was subsequently dismissed from the band. Michael Pfaff replaced him. This, I believe, was a lot of him feeling like he wasn't getting the writing credit that he deserved. I think that a lot of times in these bands, whoever writes the song gets a little more of the cut of the pie for royalties and stuff, and he was feeling like he wasn't getting what he deserved. But not to knock on him as an artist, but his contributions, I believe, to the band were fairly small. I mean, I think he was more there as a performer, hype person. His musical input on things wasn't really significant. He was kind of a auxiliary percussionist, and I think he was mainly just there for a stage presence, really, more than anything. Moving on to 2023, Craig Jones, who did the samples and keyboards, would part ways with Slipknot. The band announced his departure on June 7th of 2023, but deleted the announcement shortly after. Neither Jones nor the band publicly explained why he left. He was originally, I believe, the guitar player in the very early incarnations of Slipknot, and then got moved to samples and keyboard when Mick Thompson came in with the band. Also in 2023, you had Jay Weinberg, who is the drummer that took over for Joey Jordison. He was fired / parted ways with Slipknot. They called it a creative decision at the time. The band thanked Jay but said Slipknot needed to continue evolving. No more detailed official explanation was given farther than that. And then you have in August of 2026, which led to this whole episode really, was Sid Wilson being let go from the band. He is the DJ slash turntable person in Slipknot. They announced that effective immediately they would no longer be associated with Wilson. No official reason was given at that time. Reports before the announcement alleged serious tension between Wilson and other members, but those allegations had not been officially confirmed by the band. I know that I had seen videos on TikTok and stuff about him and Corey getting into it as they came off stage. Corey saying that he hated him and they would bicker when they came off a stage. And I think a lot of this might be due to the fact that I have read that Corey Taylor can be a very difficult person to be with and be in a band with, which is disappointing from my level because I really like him as a vocalist. He is one of those vocalists that I always try to look up to. Him and Chester Bennington, I think, were the two vocalists that I really just admired, and I mainly admired them for the reason that they could sing a very beautiful song and had a really nice clean tone to them, but then they could scream and be aggressive, and they had that extra level to their vocals that they could really get out there. And I just really admired them for their range of being able to do softer stuff and heavier stuff. So, little disappointing to me that Corey Taylor is possibly not a great person to be in a band with. I believe I've read articles where Jim Root, that's the reason he stepped away from Stone Sour. So I'm sure there's a lot of reasons there that led to some of this stuff. I mean, look at how many people are in the band. It's hard to get a band of 3 people to get along, let alone a band with as many members as Slipknot being able to get along, go on tour with each other. You're obviously, that's your family at that point. You're spending more time with them than you do any of your other family or friends. And you're basically living with these people on the road for a year at a time or more. And it's easy to see that there would be some infighting in there and people wouldn't always be getting along. But I just thought there's a lot of turnover, and especially here in the last few years there's been a lot of turnover. So I don't know if there's a creative direction going on in the band that is creating some infighting and causing some of these original members to decide that they're done putting up with it and fighting because the band's possibly going in a direction that they don't want to see it go in. So they just decide to leave, or ultimately Slipknot as a band gets tired of arguing with them and lets them go. So let's get into this news story about the most recent firing with Sid Wilson, which is the whole reason that this episode came about anyway, is this news. So this comes from Rolling Stone. Slipknot has apparently booted turntablist Sid Wilson from the band. Quote, effective immediately, Slipknot will no longer be associated with Sid Wilson, the band posted in a since deleted social media post, which was shared by Stereogum on Friday, August 14th. Quote, we wish him the best in his future endeavors, end quote. Reps for the band did not immediately return Rolling Stone's request for comment. Wilson, who joined the band in 1998, was known at Number Zero and served as Slipknot's keyboardist and turntablist. His departure is one in a series in recent years. In 2019, Slipknot announced they were parting ways with Chris Finn amid the longtime percussionist lawsuit. They alleged the band had shorted payment he claimed he was due. A few years later, Pinhead masked Keyboardist sampler Craig Jones, who had joined the band in 1996, also left the band in 2023. Later that year, Slipknot split with the drummer Jay Weinberg over what they called a creative decision. Weinberg, who dedicated a decade of his life to the metal band, spoke with Rolling Stone in April about the decision, saying, quote, "Processing it over the last 2 years, I've wanted to take that experience and obviously learn from it. I'm going into creative environments, say a studio or playing live, where there is love for one another and respect for one another in ways that I've never experienced before," end quote. Last year, Slipknot struck a deal with Arbor View Equity Partners and sold a majority stake in their catalog, including publishing and recording royalties. Quote, "After 25 years of taking on the music business, we find ourselves with a partner that is willing to sign on to continuing what Slipknot started," Slipknot's M. Sean Clown Crane said in a statement to Hollywood Reporter at the time, quote, "Only they want to go even bigger, get ready, hail the knot." So not a lot of information there given on exactly why Sid Wilson was released. I'm sure as time goes on, we will probably hear more rumblings about what led to that decision, but we will have to see in the coming weeks or months if any of that gets leaked out or if it just stays swept under the rug. It didn't seem like any announcement had been made with who would maybe be replacing him or if they would be replacing him, so we'll have to keep up with all that information, and as soon as I get an update, I will get that out to you. Following Sid Wilson's release from Slipknot, his ex-fiancée Kelly Osbourne took to Instagram and had some pretty scathing posts about Sid Wilson. On her Instagram, she would say, quote, "Wake the fuck up, take some responsibility. I will not take your shit anymore. I'm done. I want to be happy, and I have a beautiful son to raise. Leave me alone. Let me heal. I can't protect you from yourself anymore." She would go on to post, "My job is to protect my kids. Not your feelings, not your expectations, not judgments I didn't ask for. My responsibility is to protect their well-being, their nervous systems, their emotional safety. I will choose them every single time over anyone and anything." Also going on to say, "Also, while I'm at it, can I have my dogs back and all my possessions? Oh yeah, and maybe some child support." Not being done yet, she said, "Strange how the loudest defense of the guilty is rarely innocence. It's distraction. When the mask slips, they don't face the mirror, they throw it at someone else. I also heard that when you break a mirror, you get 7 years bad luck. Or is that just karma? This is why I always take accountability. As they say, some are sicker than others. My son's little heart once beat right beside mine, so trust me when I say I will protect it at all cost." Kelly never mentioned Sid by name or directly connected the post to his firing, but the timing is certainly noteworthy here. This article came from TMZ. As TMZ first reported, Slipknot permanently kicked Sid out after more than 25 years with the heavy metal group. Sources with direct knowledge told TMZ that the firing had been a long time coming, with the band finally reaching its limit over Sid's behavior and the way he allegedly treated his bandmates. As I had mentioned, Kelly and Sid had been engaged before but called off their engagement this last month. Sid has been seen out and about since all of this happened. He was seen outside of a Los Angeles recording studio, but stayed silent when asked about the Slipknot exit. So, as I've said before, I'm sure there will be even more information in the coming weeks to come out, but it seems as if he just wasn't getting along with his bandmates, and maybe it stems to something deeper because obviously Kelly Osbourne and him have been having a rough go of things and called off their engagement, and now it seems like maybe the child they had together, maybe Sid's not being the best father, I don't know. That's all just speculation. But it seems like maybe Kelly's ready to step away from him altogether as Slipknot did, and she just wants to be financially secure, I guess, with child support. I would think that she has plenty of money coming in for herself, so I'm not really worried about the child's well-being, really. I would guess that she's probably worth more than Sid Wilson is, really. But still, she feels like she's entitled to some child support, and if he's being not around for the child, then she's entitled to that. I'm sure that's for a judge to make a decision on somewhere, not for me to speculate on. But it just sounds like maybe this year has been a downward spiral for Sid Wilson. I don't know if it were things leading into this year that this is just the culmination of everything and it just hit its peak now and everything is coming to a head and hitting him at once and has been something that has been in the works for a while, or if all of this has just been a sudden downfall for him. So you always wish the best for people. You hope everyone ends up coming out of a situation like this and landing on their feet. But it just is another exit from Slipknot, and seems like maybe he hasn't been the nicest of people. So wanted to get that story out to you guys. As I said before, I thought it interesting that another member of Slipknot is leaving, though it sounds like maybe this one was maybe warranted firing. It depends on the story, I guess. You always have, I like to say, you have three sides to every story. You have their side, your side, and then what actually happened. So in this case, until you hear from Sid about what's been going on, or you hear from an outside source outside of the band that witnessed some things going on, you're probably not going to hear anything other than the fact that he was just not a very nice bandmate. So that's all we got for this time. As I said, if there's more news to come out about this, I will try to add it into maybe another news story or something just to keep you updated on the situation. I really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, do all the good things to help me out. Until next time, I'm Gibbs. This is Gibbs Drops the Needle. Stay safe and be kind.